Hello everyone. In today's lecture, we will study the theory portion of sets, relations, and functions. The contents in this lecture includes first we will discuss about the sets. After that, we will discuss about the Venn diagram. What is Venn diagram? After we will discuss about different operations on the set, law of algebra of the sets. What is Cartesian product of the sets? After that, we will jump to the relations. So we will study the definition of relations. What are the relations? After that, we will go to the composition of relations. After discussing relations, we will jump to the functions or mappings. Functions are also called as mappings. So we will discuss the definitions of functions, different types of functions. After that, we will go to the composition of functions. Let's start sets, relations, and functions. First, we have to define sets. What is sets? A set is a well-defined class or collection of the objects. Suppose we have certain objects A, B, C, right? A is some apple, B banana, C some cat. So we have to make a group of different things. So we will define these things as a set. So a set is a well-defined class or collection of the objects. Sets are usually denoted by the symbol capital A, B, C. So sets are generally denoted by the capital letters. And the elements of the sets are denoted by small letters such as A, B, C, etc. If A is an element of set A, then we can write A belongs to A. This symbol is known as belongs to. Suppose A is an element of set A. Suppose we have set A and elements are 1, 2, 3, 4, right? So we can write 1 belongs to A, right? And 2 belongs to B, etc. So if small a is an element of set A, then we can write small a belongs to A. And if small a is not element of set A, then we can write A does not belong to A. Here we can write 5 does not belongs to A, right? This is A. 2 belongs to A. 5 does not belongs to A, right? So by this method, we can represent different elements of a set. Next thing, representation of set. There are basically two methods of representing a set. First is roster method. Second is set builder method. In roster method, a set is described by listing elements separated by commas with curly braces. Example, a set of vowel of English alphabet may be described as A, E, I, O, U, C. We can say that each elements are separated by commas and set is represented by curly braces. All the elements are inside the curly braces, right? Next method of representing a set is a set builder method. In set builder method, a set is described by property Px, which is possessed by all its elements X. In such a case, the set is written as X such that this symbol semicolon is known as such as X such as Px holds, or X, this is also called such as X such as Px holds, which is read as X, which is read as the set of all X such that Px holds. Example, set P is equal to 0, 1, 4, 9, 16 can be written as P equal to X square such that X belongs to Z. We know that we represent Z as set of all the integers, right? So here we can say that P is equal to X square such that X belongs to set of integers, right? So these are the two methods of the representation of sets. Now we will discuss about the types of sets. The set which contains no element at all are called null set. First type is null set. What is null set? The set which contains no element at all is called null set or empty set, or another name we can say that void set, right? So null set, empty set, and void set are same thing. and it is denoted by symbol phi, right? It is denoted by symbol phi or empty curly bracket. And if contains a single element, then it is called singleton set, right? So what is null set? Null set is a set in which there are no elements at all, right? And what is singleton set? Singleton set means the set contains only one element. For example, right, we have a set in which there is only one element, one, suppose. Then this set A is called singleton set. Next, what is finite set? A set in which the process of counting of elements definitely comes to an end, right? So there are finite number of elements in the set, then it is called finite set. Otherwise, if the process of counting of elements doesn't come to an end, then it is called infinite set. For example, the set of natural numbers, right? The set of natural numbers is an infinite set because it never ends, right? It starts from one, but it never ends. And when we say that a set of natural numbers less than 10, then it is a finite set, right? Because it ends at 9, 1 to 9. Two sets A and B are said to be equal set if and only if. This IFF is called if and only if. So two sets A and B are said to be equal if and only if every element of A is an element of B and also every element of B is an element of A, right? Then we can say that A equal to B. Suppose X belongs to A, this implies X belongs to B, and X belongs to B, this implies X belongs to A, right? So every element of A must be an element of B, and every element of B must be an element of A. Then only we can say that two sets A and B are equal. Now, what is equivalent sets? There are complete difference between equal sets and equivalent sets. Equivalent sets have same number of elements, but not exactly the same elements, right? Equal sets has exactly the same elements, right? But equivalent sets has same number of elements. Suppose we have a set A in which we have 1, 2, 3. Another set B, we have 1, 2, 3. So we can say that set A and set B are equal, right? And suppose we have set C, which is 3, 4, 5, right? Now, number of elements of set A and number of elements of set C, which is equal to 3, is same. So set A, B, and C are equivalent set, right? Set A and B are equal set, but set A, B, and C are equivalent set because number of elements are same. Now, we can say that equivalent sets have same number of elements, but not exactly the same elements, right? A set that contains all the sets in a given context is called universal set. One thing we can say that here, equivalent set cannot be an equal set, but equal sets are always equivalent set, right? Now, let's come to universal set. A set that contains all sets in a given context is called universal set. Let A and B be two sets. If every element of set A is an element of set B, then A is called subset of B, right? Suppose we have set A as 1, 2, 3, and suppose we have set D as 1, 2, 3, 5, right? Then we can say that A is subset of D, right? Because every elements of set A are the elements of set D, right? So subset of D, A is subset of B can be represented as this symbol, A is subset of B. If A is subset of B and A not equal to B, right? Here A is subset of D, but A is not equal to D. Then A is proper subset of B, right? So here A is proper subset of D, which can be represented as A subset of D, right? So proper subset is when A is not equal to B, then it is called proper subset of B. The null set phi is subset of every set, right? The null set is subset of every set, is a subset of itself, right? The null set is subset of every set, and every set is subset of itself, right? Suppose set A is subset of itself, right? So phi subset of A and A subset are equal to A, right? A can be equal to A can also be equal to A, or A is subset or equal to A for every set A. They are called improper subset of A, right? So if A is equal to A, then it is called improper subset of A. If S is an element, if S is any set, then set of all the subsets of S are called power set of S, right? So what is power set of S? Suppose we have any set S, then set of all the subsets of S is called power set of S, and it is denoted by PS. Power set of a given set is always non-empty, right? Power set of a given set will always be non-empty. Suppose A has n elements, then number of elements in power set of A will be 2 to the power n, right? So if A has n elements, then PA, that is power set of A, has 2 to the power n elements. The set phi is also not a null set, right? Set phi is not a null set. It is a set containing one element phi. Suppose we have this set phi, so it is not null set, right? If we have to write null set, we can simply write phi. Clear? So set of set phi is not a null set. It contains one element phi, right? Whenever we have to show that two sets A and B are equal, just so that A subset are equal to B and B subset are equal to A, then we can prove that A is equal to B. We have to prove two conditions. First, A subset are equal to B and B subset are equal to A. If these two conditions will satisfy, then we can say that A and B are equal, right? Now, if set A has m element, then m is called cardinality or cardinal number of set A, right? So number of elements of a set is called cardinal number of a set, and it is denoted by number of A, right? So number of A is equal to m, right? These are types of sets. Now we will study Venn diagram. What are Venn diagram? The combination of rectangles and circles are called Venn Euler diagram or Venn diagram, right? In Venn diagram, the universal set is represented by a rectangular region. This rectangular region is represented by universal set, which is denoted by U, and set is represented by circle on some closed geometrical figure, right? So, and thus we have some set A, which is represented by circle, where A is the set and U is a universal set. So this representation is called Venn diagram. Now, union of sets, set A and B. The union of set A and B is set of all elements which are in set A or in set B or both in set A and B, right? So this is called union of element. A union B can be represented as X such that X belongs to A or B, right? Here in Venn diagram, you can say that any element belongs to either A or B or both A and B, right? The intersection of A and B is a set of all those elements that belong to both A and B. That is, A intersection B is equal to X such that X belongs to A and X belongs to B. So A intersection B will be the set of all common elements of A and B, right? So A intersection B can be denoted by this in Venn diagram, right? If A intersection B is equal to phi, suppose A intersection B is equal to phi, that is, there are no common points, then A and B are called disjoint sets, right? A and B are called disjoint sets because there are no common elements. Next, let's come to operation of sets. Let U be an universal set A and A be a set such that A is subset of U, right? Then complement of A are all the elements other than A is called complement of A. So the complement of A with respect to U is denoted by A dash or A complement or A bar or U minus A, right? So complement can be denoted by these four things. It is defined as set of all those elements of U which are not in A, right? Set of all those elements of U which are not in A. The difference A minus B is a set of all those elements of A which does not belongs to B, right? So A minus B can be represented as the difference A minus B is the set of all those elements of A which does not belong to B. That means say the elements belong to A but does not belong to B, right? That is A minus B is X such that X belongs to A and X does not belong to B, right? And B minus A is X such that X belongs to B and X does not belong to A. So by the Venn diagram, we can say that A minus B is set of all the elements which is present in the set A but not B. Right, B minus A is set of all the elements which is present in B but not A. Now, the symmetrical difference of two sets A and B is the set of A minus B union B minus A, right? So symmetrical difference can be represented of set of A minus B union B minus A, and it is represented by A delta B, right? So A delta B can be represented as, we can say that this is A minus B and this is B minus A, right? So A minus B union B minus A is called A delta B, or symmetrical difference of the A and B. Law of algebra of sets, right? Now, suppose we have three sets, A, B, and C. We have three sets, then A union A is equal to A. We can see by Venn diagram also, A union A, right? So we have only single set A. Now A union A will be A intersection A will be again A, right? So we have to A intersection A means we have to take common between A and A. So common thing between A and A is A itself, right? Now A union phi is equal to A. Phi means nothing. A union nothing is A itself, right? And A intersection U is A, right? Suppose we have U and suppose we have A, right? So what is intersection, common thing between A union U intersection A? U intersection A or A intersection U is common thing. This is A. So which is A intersection U is equal to A itself, right? Now, this is basically identity law. First thing was idempotent law. This is called idempotent law. This is called identity law. Now, let's see distributive law. A union B intersection C is equal to A union B intersection A union C. You can see, you can prove it by Venn diagram, right? So A union B intersection A union C. Now A intersection B union C is equal to A intersection B union A intersection C. Now De Morgan's law. De Morgan's law is A union B complement is equal to A complement intersection B complement, right? And A intersection B complement is equal to A complement union B complement. Clear? Now A minus B intersection C can be written as A minus B union A minus C. And also A minus B union C can be written as A minus B intersection A minus C. You can say that in De Morgan's theorem, all the union things become intersection, and all the intersection things becomes union, right? If here it is union, then it becomes intersection. Here it is intersection, it becomes union. And similarly in all the four cases. Now associative law. Associative law is A union B union C can be written as A union B union C, right? And A intersection B intersection C can be written as A intersection B intersection C. So this is associative law. Now commutative law. These things are commutative law. That is A union B is equal to B union A, right? And A intersection B is equal to B intersection A. Also A symmetric difference B is equal to B symmetric difference A, right? So this is commutative law, right? Now let's see some important results on operation of sets. A minus B can be represented as A minus B complement. All the things you can see by Venn diagram, right? First thing, suppose A minus B. So A minus B, all the elements which are in A but not in B, right? So A minus B is A intersection B complement, right? So B complement is these things, right? B complement is these things. So A intersection B complement is this region, right? Clear? So now B minus A is B intersection A complement. Now A minus B is equal to A. If A minus B is equal to A, this implies A intersection B is equal to phi, right? And also converse is also true. If A intersection B is equal to phi, then A minus B can be written as simply A, right? Now fourth point, A minus B union B can be written as A union B. And A minus B intersection B is phi, right? A minus B intersection B. Suppose A and B. So A minus B is these things and intersection B. So there are no common terms of this thing A minus B with B, right? So A minus B intersection B is phi. Now if A is subset or equal to B, then B complement will be subset or equal to A. And converse is also true. If B complement is subset or equal to A, then A is subset or equal to B. Now A minus B union B minus A is equal to A union B minus A union A intersection B. Now you have to remember this formula. Number of A union B is equal to number of A plus number of B minus number of A intersection B. And also number of A union B is equal to number of A. If number of A union B is equal to number of A plus number of B, then A and B are disjoint set because number of A intersection B becomes 0. And converse is also true. If A and B are disjoint sets, then number of A union B is equal to number of A plus number of B. Now points 10. Number of A minus B can be written as number of A minus number of A intersection B, right? We can say that number of A minus B is equal to number of A minus number of A intersection B, right? A intersection B. Now number of asymmetric difference B is equal to number of A plus number of B minus 2 number of A intersection B. Now this formula is for the three sets. If number of A union B union C is equal to number of A plus number of B plus number of C minus number of A intersection B minus number of A B intersection C minus number of A intersection C plus number of A intersection B intersection C. Now commutative law, number of A complement union B complement will be equal to number of A intersection B complement and equal to number of U minus number of A intersection B. Also, number of A complement intersection B complement is equal to number of A union B complement is equal to number of U minus number of A union B. Now, Cartesian product of sets. Suppose A and B be two non-empty sets, right? Then the Cartesian product A into B is defined as set of all ordered pairs A, B such that A belongs to A and B belongs to B. That is, if A into B is represented by A, B such that A belongs to A and B belongs to B, right? And B into A can be represented BA such that B belongs to A, B belongs to B and A belongs to A. And A into A means Cartesian product of same set, means AB such that AB belongs to A. Now, if A into B is equal to 5, if neither A equal to B, A into B is equal to 5, if either A or B is an empty set, right? Clear? Now, if number of A is equal to P and number of B is equal to Q, then number of A into B is equal to number of A into number of B. Then this will be equal to P into Q. Now A into B union C is equal to A into B union A into C. And A into B intersection C is A into B intersection A into C. A into B minus C is equal to A into B minus A into C. A into B intersection C into D is equal to A intersection C into B intersection D. Now let's come to relation. What is the relation? Let A and B be two non-empty sets, then relation R from A to B is subset of A into B, right? Then subset of A into B. Relation R will be subset of A into B. That is, R is subset or equal to A into B. If AB belongs to R, then we say that A is related to B by relation some R, right? By some relation R. And we write that A R B, which means A is related to B by certain relation. Domain of R is equal to A, such that A, B belongs to R. And range of R is equal to B, such that A, B belongs to R, right? So first A is domain and B is range. If number of A is equal to P and number of B is equal to P, then total number of relations from A to B is equal to 2 to the power PQ. We have to remember this. Now types of relations. Let A be any two non-empty sets and R be a relation on R. Then R is said to be reflexive if and only if AA belongs to R. That means each elements are related to itself, right? Then it is called symmetric relation. Now second, R is reflexive relation. Now suppose R is said to be reflexive relation if and only if AB belongs to R. If AB belongs to R, this implies BA belongs to R, right? That means if 1, 2 belongs to R, this implies 2, 1 should also belongs to R. Then this is called symmetric relation. Now transitive relation. R is said to be transitive if and only if A belongs to B, AB belongs to R, BC belongs to R. That means AC should belongs to R. See, B and B is common. So if AB belongs to R and BC belongs to R, this implies AC belongs to R. For all A, B, C belongs to A. That is A related to B and B. If A related to B and B related to C, this implies A should relate to C. For all A, B, C belongs to A. Now identity relation. IA is equal to AA such that A belongs to A is called identity relation of A on A. Now see, what is difference between identity relation and symmetric relation? See, in identity relation, only AA exists, right? That is 1, 1, 2, 2, right? 3, 3, right? But in symmetric relation, other things also. Suppose we have set A is equal to 1, 2, 3, right? So in symmetric relation, it can be said that A is equal to each element will be related to itself and there can be other relations also, right? 3, 3, it will happen. And also we can have another relation, right? So this is symmetric relation. But in identity relation, only 1, 1, 2, 2, and 3, 3 exist, right? If another, if some different element, suppose 2, 3 exist, 2, 3 comes in this set, then it will not become identity relation, right? So for identity relation, only 1, 1, 2, 2, and 3, 3 should exist, right? Now, R is said to be equivalence relation if and only if it is reflexive, it is symmetric, and it is transitive, right? Then only if all the three conditions will satisfy, then only it will be equivalence relation, right? Clear? Now, what is inverse relation? Let R be a relation from set A to set B, then the inverse of R, denoted by R inverse, is defined by R inverse is, suppose R is AB, then R inverse is BA, such that AB belongs to R. Clearly, AB belongs to R. This implies BA should belongs to R inverse, right? Note the intersection of two equivalence relation on a set is also an equivalent relation on the set. The union of two equivalence relation on a set is not necessarily equivalence relation on set, right? So intersection of two sets should also equivalence of two intersection of two equivalence relation on a set is also an equivalent relation of set, right? But union of two equivalence relation on set is not necessarily an equivalent relation on set. If R is equivalence relation on set A, then R inverse is also equivalence relation of set A. Now, what is composition of relations? Let R and S be two relations from set A to set B and B to C respectively. Then we can define a relation SOR from A to C such that AC belongs to SOR. This implies B belongs to B such that AB belongs to R and BC belongs to S. This relation is called composition of R and S, right? So ROS is not necessarily equal to SOR, right? Now, let's come to the mapping or functions. Let A and B are two non-empty sets. Then a rule F which associates each X belongs to a unique member Y belongs to B is called function from A to B and is denoted by F A to B. The set A is called domain. This set A is called domain of F or DF, and set B is called codomain of F or CF. The set consisting of all the images of the element A are called range of F, right? So range is subset of codomain, right? Range is subset of codomain. A relation will be function if no two distinct ordered pairs have same first elements, right? No two distinct ordered pairs have first element. Every function is a relation, but every relation is not necessarily a function. We will have to remember this. Now, the number of functions from a finite set A into finite set B is number of B to the power number of A, right? You have to remember these things. Now, let's see different types of function. Let F be a function from A to B, that is F A mapping B. Then F is said to be one function or injective function if different elements of A have different image in B, right? So here we can say that different element of A has different image in B. Methods to check which function should be 1, 1 or not. First, method 1. If fx is equal to fy, this implies there should be x equal to y, right? Then f is 1, 1. Method 2. A function is 1, 1 if and only if no line parallel to x-axis meets the graph at more than one point, right? Suppose this graph y equal to x squared. Suppose we draw a line x-axis parallel. Suppose we draw a line parallel to x-axis, then it is cutting at two points. So this is not 1, 1 function, right? Y equal to x. If draw v parallel parallel to x-axis, it is cutting at one point. Then it is 1, 1 function, right? The number of 1, 1 function that can be defined from a finite set A into a finite set B is NB permutations A, right? NB permutations P and A, right? If number of B greater than equal to number of A or 0 otherwise. So F is said to be many, and F is said to be many one function if two or more elements of set A have same image in set B, right? So here you can say that A1 and A2 have same image B5. That is F A mapping B is many one if it is not 1, 1 function, right? Now methods to check 1, 1 function. f is said to be onto function or surjective function. Onto function or surjective function. Surjective function if each element of B has its pre-image in A. Right. So each element of B has if each element of B has its pre-image in A, then it is called onto function or surjective function. Now there are methods to check onto function. Find range of fx and show that range is equal to codomain of fx. Right. If range equal to codomain, then it is called onto function. Any polynomial function of odd degree is always onto. The number of onto functions that can be defined from set A, from a finite set A containing n elements to a finite set B containing 2 elements is 2 to the power n minus 2. If Na greater than equal to nb, then number of onto function is 0. If A has m elements and B has n elements, where m is less than b, the number of onto function from A to B is n to the power m minus this sequence nc1 minus n minus 1 to the power m plus. So this minus and plus will go sequentially, right? nc2 n minus 2 to the power m like this, and m less than n, right? If f is said to be into function, if there exists at least one element of B having no preimage, we can say that B4 and B5 has no preimage in A, right? Then it is called onto function. F is said to be bijective function if it is 1 1 as well as onto, right? Then it is bijective function. Now if A mapping B is a bijective, then A and B have same number of elements, right? It should have same number of elements. So if Na equal to nb is equal to m, then number of bijective mapping from A to B is m factorial. Clear? Now composition of function. Let f A to B and g B to C are two functions, then composition of f and g denoted by g of A to C is defined as g of x is equal to g of fx for all x belongs to A. Note, g of is defined only if fx is an element of code of domain of G. Generally, g of is not equal to f of G. So this ends today's lecture of fifth relation function. Hope you liked the lecture. Thank you so much.